Hi everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. For those of you who are on Steiger today, it was a great fun show. It felt so positive and it was just so wonderful to connect with you all. There's a very powerful energy when I go live on Steiger. I guess I can feel all of you. It's amazing and it's beautiful and powerful, and I love spending my time with you all. So I just wanted to tell you that. And I thought we would pick up on the Eleusinian mysteries in the book again, Angels, Origins of the Soul by Tricia McCannon. So the angelic origins of the soul. And where we were at was the Eleusinian mysteries. And the Eleusinian mysteries are really neat because it says, while the Orphic mysteries were the first mysteries to be taught in ancient Greece, the Eleusinian mysteries are probably the most famous. They were seeded by the priestess of Isis around 700 BC. And went on to inspire philosophers, statesmen, thinkers all around the world. These beliefs would later influence Jewish and Christian theologies and the intellects of countless men and women. And it became the bedrock teachings of the Pythagoras, Socrates, and Plato. The center of the Eleusinian mysteries lay only a few miles west. Oh, sorry, I lost my place. A few miles west of Athens. Oh, interesting. So the Eleusinian mysteries lay only a few miles west of Athens. And their greatest rites took place inside of caves. That's profound to me. I had an opportunity to go to Greece, and I was on a cruise, and we went to the Greek islands, and one of our stops was Patmos. And Patmos is an island in the Greek islands, and this is where it was said that St. John and Jesus wrote the book of John. And I had the most profound spiritual experience on that island. It'll never ever leave me. And what happened was, we went to this island, and immediately when I got off the boat, we were going to visit a monastery, so we had to wear certain clothing that covered all of your arms and your feet and your legs and the whole thing, because you had to be covered when you go into the monastery. So we were dressed to do that, and when we got off the boat, I don't know why, but I literally walked straight to the water and ripped off my shoes and pulled my pants up and took off my jacket so I could touch the water, and I literally felt like I was returning home. And it was a profound feeling, and I experienced that when I was in Athens as well. So I went into the Cave of Miracles in Patmos, and I literally felt like I reconnected to a part of my spirit. So I think that there's different parts of us connected to this land, and that might be one of the things we need to look into, is reconnecting with the parts of the world that we're still connected to. Because I had a profound experience when I went to this land, and I do believe it was the actual effect coming from the land of me remembering a frequency. And that frequency unlocked a lot of my remembering. So this cave that they wrote the book of John in apparently produced miracles for over 2,000 years. And anybody who walked into this cave, if water started coming out of the cave walls, trickling down the water, anyone who touched it would be healed of anything that was wrong with their body. And when I went into this monastery, I was looking at the ancient relics apparently that they had eaten and drank with, and the spoons and the forks, and then they had this old Bible, and it was written in calligraphy, and it was penned in ink, and the artwork and the colors were amazing, and it was in an airtight chamber, and you could tell it was very, very old. And as I'm looking at this case with these magical old relics, all of a sudden there's this music that starts, and it was monks, you know, the chanting, the Gregorian chant. And as soon as that music started, I, like a wave of goosebump chills hit my whole body like an ocean, and it was just like woo. And I looked at the lady in the museum, you know, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to purchase this music. Do you have the CD for sale? Are you playing this on your stereo, or where is it coming from? And she looked at me and she just laughed and she giggled and she shook her head. She goes, honey, she goes, the monks are in prayer above our heads. That's in stereo. This is live. And the goosebumps just rocked my whole system again. It was just like, whoo. So it was profound, and something about the water and the energy, and it brought back a cellular remembering. And it was profound. So I really think that there's a profound connection to different parts of the earth, that maybe we have been there in previous times, and it activates a remembering inside of you. So those of you who are drawn to jungles for whatever reason, or you're fascinated with the pyramids of Egypt, or you're always drawn to Victorian style homes, these have important meanings for you. So do everything that you can to find the things that you're intrinsically drawn to. Like it's in your, you don't know why you like them. It's in you. Look at these things, because they're hidden keys of wisdom for us that give us keys to our past and our past existence and our past knowings, and remembering the wisdom that we gathered through these different experiences. So the power and the rites and the rituals that took place inside of the caves. Doing ceremonies in caves, or living in a cave, is one way to connect with the very sacred energies of the earth. In this practice can be found in many religions, including the Essenes, the Buddhists, the Hindus, the Druids, the Jews, the Christians, the Maya, the Native Americans, and the Indians, and the Inca. Like the Orphics, the Eleusinian mysteries taught that humans are spiritual beings whose true home lies in the heaven, which is free from the bondage of our limiting earthly experiences and concepts. On earth, the soul is trapped in a false imprisonment body that is like a tomb. And this is the source of our greatest suffering, Manly P. Hall writes. To the Eleusinian philosophers, birth into the physical world was as death in the fullest sense of the word. The only true birth was that of the spiritual, the soul of man, rising out of the womb of his own fleshly nature. In his poem, A Psalm of Life, the 19th century American poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow writes, "The soul is dead that slumbers," speaking of how unawake most of us are during our course of our physical lives upon earth. The Eleusinian teachers also taught that all things are connected in the cosmos, and that by following the laws of nature, we can stay in balance. Epicurus noticed, insofar As you forget nature, you will find yourself in trouble and create for yourself endless fears and desires. They knew that the entire universe is an expression of the one divine mind, of which our souls are a part. Always think of the cosmos as one living being, having one substance and one soul, and how all things trace back to a single sentience, and how it does all things with a single intention, and how all things are the causes of all that exists, and how intertwined is the fabric, and how closely woven is the web. The web, profound, speaking of the web over 2,000 years ago. Like the other branches of the Greek mystery schools, the Eleusinians had the lesser great mysteries. The lesser mysteries taught the precepts of morality, law, and helped initiates focused on making the best use of their time on earth. The first level also revealed that the horrors that would await the candidate on the other side if they lived a life of violence, hate, and selfishness. This refers to the lower levels of the astral plane, a topic we will address again in part 2 of this book. The pitfalls of Hades were vividly depicted in a series of complicated subterranean mazes fought with dangers that the initiates had to pass through, and if successful, they were awarded the title of Mystes, or the one who sees through the clouded veil. This veil had to be torn away. When the initiates passed through the higher degrees, this is the source of the word mystic, meaning one who is able to pull aside the veil of the illusion, to follow one's own heart to the source, which is unseen in all the physical worlds. In the Eleusinian mysteries, the greater mysteries were dedicated to Demeter, the great mother, who is often depicted carrying 2 torches, one of reason and one of intuition. Demeter's name, Demeter, can easily be decoded as the measure of all things, just as Isis is the I am principle of life itself. These names immediately mark these sacred rites as a cosmological in nature. Persephone, the daughter of the great mother Demeter, is the human soul. Whoa. Persephone is the human soul. That's the body I saw? Wow, that's amazing. So, the great mother Demeter is the human soul, who must consistently travel back and forth between the realms of heaven and earth in order to discover her true identity, until she finally frees herself from the seeds of karma that she has sown in the worlds below. The Eleusinian mysteries also stress the importance of not committing suicide, warning that great sorrow comes to those who do. There is also an exception to this for those who are terminally ill or mentally diseased. There are exceptions to the rule for these circumstances, but from what I can understand so far, these are the only ones that they are given extenuating circumstances under the circumstances. So this is because when we take our own life, we break the many soul contracts that we have made with the other beings that we have incarnated with on this realm at this time. Each new incarnation brings grief and chaos into everyone, leaving a void in the lives of those who were left behind. Then the soul, once freed from the body, is steeped in regret. And that would make sense because they would be in their own, they would be condemning themselves in essence. So they quickly realize what they have done. They also realize very soon that they must now return to earth and retake this lesson. But now it might be placed under heavier karmic burden than even before. Great the effort is to put unto the choice of each of our lifetimes by the lords of karma, who excel in helping with our life plans. If the soul had persevered instead, who knows what it might have accomplished or learned. The one exception to this rule against suicide applies to the elderly in great pain or the terminally ill. In this case of souls who have basically completed their missions, grace here is given, even if in the case of suicide. So when they've completed their soul contracts and completed their mission, so say if you lose all mental capabilities and you're completely like in a vegetable state, certain stuff like that, there's no problem with that because you can't obviously fulfill any more of the contracts with the vehicle that you're still existing within. And that makes perfect sense to me. And I don't think there's still any kind of, oh, you're going to hell if you committed suicide. No. They're going to get counseling and they're going to be going through some healing, and hopefully they're going to learn and bring the skills with them that they need to fulfill their contracts. But I still also too, I do have a thing, a belief in me that says that, you know, once you're out of these contracts in any way that you get out of them and you're out of the physical body, I believe if you understand who you are and what you are, I believe your limitations on those contracts and your options will be completely destroyed, and you are open to receive all brand new potentials and new information based upon your consciousness. So with that, learn, guys, as much as you can, and learn what works for you, because those are truly your keys, because you are a unique piece of creation, and nobody's keys will match yours. You are your own salvation, and you hold your own keys. We just need to remember where we put them and how to open the locks. So, with that, a global legacy. Those who graduated from the Greek mystery schools, it reads like the who's who of ancient philosophers, thinkers, and scientists. The list includes Pythagoras, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Pindar, Herodotus, Heraclitus, Zeno, Anaxagoras, Democritus, Polonius, Orphic, Lambetuus, Hypatia, and many others, each representing a milestone in the Western thought. Greek archaeologist George E. Milonas writes profoundly of the teachings of the great schools. When we read statements written by the great, or nearly great, of the ancient world, we cannot help but believe that the mysteries of Eleusinian were not empty, childish affairs devised by shrewd priests to fool the peasant and ignorant, but it was a philosophy of life that possessed substance and meaning and imparted a modicum of truth to the yearning human soul. The belief is strengthened when truth is in the yearning of the human soul. The belief is strengthened when we read that Athens has given nothing to the world more excellent or divine than the Eleusinian mysteries. So now let us take a deeper look at the wisdom of Pythagoras, Socrates, Plato's, and see what they have to say about the eternal nature of the soul and the realms of the afterlife. Reincarnation, the Circle of Life, Chapter 3. The Circle of Life. I am confident that there truly is such a thing as living again, and that the living spring from the dead, and that the souls of the dead are in existence. Pythagoras was perhaps one of the most brilliant of the Greek philosophers, a student of many ancient streams of knowledge, including Orphic, Eleusinian, and different mystery schools. He also studied with the sages of Phoenicia, Judea, Chaldea, Egypt, Persia, and India. His birth was prophesied by the oracle at Delphi. I've been there. It was a profound experience for me. Who foretold that he would surpass all other men in beauty and in wisdom and bring great good into the world. Because of this, his father was instructed to have no sexual intimacy for his wife in the year before his birth. Wow. So many believe that Pythagoras was an immaculate conception, or the Son of God. Thus, Pythagoras, like Jesus, was known as a son of God. After graduating from the Eleusinian mystery schools, he traveled to Egypt, where he spent 10 years in the mystery schools of Isis and in Thebes. Pythagoras also studied and learned under rabbis who were familiar with the secret traditions that Moses brought forth out of Egypt some 800 years earlier, and it was initiated in both Babylonia and Chaldean mysteries. Some say that while he was in Persia, he trained with a master who was in the direct lineage of the Zoroaster. Then he traveled to Syria and to Phoenicia, where the mysteries of Adonai were conferred upon him. One of his most famous voyages was to the learned Brahmins of Elephantia and Eloria in India, where he studied for some years. There he was called Yavanacharya. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. The Ionian teacher by the Brahmins. There were also reports of Pythagoras training with the Druids in Britain, where he studied with Abaris, an emissary from the Hyperborea, the land beyond the north wind. Hyperborea, that's the North Pole. Huh, interesting. So he studied in Hyperborea, the land beyond the north wind. Abaris had been led to choose Pythagoras as a student by the magical golden arrow, which he later gave to his student, Abaris, which was an extraordinary master known as a skywalker, a term that means he had attained the ability to fly. And the true meaning of that is meaning that you've gained the ability to astral travel outside of your body. And there would be targets above the earth, and they would go and have them view these targets. And they would say, rise your body to the mountains over Tibet or over Phoenix, Arizona, over the desert lands. And they would say, there are markers, there are symbols. Tell me what you see. And they would identify the appropriate symbols or the markers that were placed upon those locations. And they would be viewing them from above, because the only way that you could see them was if you were from above. So that's one of the truths into those teachings and those mysteries, and that's how they knew the adepts and the initiates from the ones who could and could not fly. Some say that Pythagoras' powers were shamanic, and there is intriguing evidence that he may have acquired some of his abilities from the shamans that the Greeks had encountered when they opened up trade routes to the Black Sea region in the 7th century BCE. The routes were then laid down only a century or so before Pythagoras was born. Pythagoras had the power to predict earthquakes, to stop hurricanes, to calm the sea, and even bilocate. He was considered not only a man of God, but a godlike man, and many of his students who called him the Master, or that man. If there was to be a Jesus who walked the earth, this might actually be the one that they took the stories after. It might be Pythagoras. So, Pythagoras was also the first to use the term philosopher, derived from the words philo and Sophia, lover of wisdom. Sophia being the goddess of wisdom, Pythagoras believed that the true purpose of the philosophy was to free the soul from its perpetual identification with the body, and that the things of this world, and to awaken the consciousness of the soul that lives within. He also believed that there is a supreme intelligence behind all things, and that the motion of God is circular. The body of God is light. The nature of God is truth. He believed it is the nature of all living creatures, human, animal, and plant, to move towards this light. This is because we ourselves are made of light, and thus we are drawn to its power to help us remember the radiance of our souls. Remember the radiance of our souls. That is powerful and beautiful. And that's what I was told. We came here to be like Jesus. Activate the light within. Do not go outside. It is time to light your Christmas tree. And the plug is inside of you. So remember that. Light it up. Pythagoras, like Orpheus, taught that the soul is immortal and that it inhabits the body only while we are alive. It originates in the heavenly realms and returns there after death to evaluate what it has accomplished after each life is finished. This life review process is also in accord with what the modern near-death experiencers report, that shortly after passing to the other side, they undergo a holographic life review of their former existence. Pythagoras and the celestial harmonies of the spheres. This is where people talked about the music of the spheres. Pythagoras finally opened his own university around the age of 53 on the Isle of Crotona, a Dorian colony in the southern Italy. Deeply democratic in his philosophy, he accepted people of all races into his school, both men and women. If accepted, a student then entered a 5-year period of silence designed to develop the qualities of listening, humility, and a contemplative mind. Such silence also taught the student to so tune into the subtle, etherical music of the spheres, and to learn the basics of Pythagoras' philosophy before presuming to contribute to it. This is so beautiful. It's like I was telling you guys how to activate the chakras. There's literally a sound. It's a song. It's the music of the spheres, and it's inside of your body. And the way it was shown to me was each chakra is sending out a sound. And every one of your organs inside of your body are producing another sound. And the energy that you've accumulated over your existence is producing a sound. And all 3 of those sounds coming together in harmony produce a symphony of beauty that you cannot put into words. And that's why they call it the music of the spheres. The music of the spheres are the spheres inside of you. And those spheres are connected to the spheres above in heaven. And those are the planetary bodies. So, Pythagoras was the first teacher to expound upon the principles of celestial harmonics known as the music of the spheres. These are the underlying harmonics of the universe that are largely inaudible to our outer senses. In other mystical traditions, this was also called the audible life stream and the sound current, the bani, the vani, and the word. This celestial music has been taught by the Essenes, the Sufis, the Egyptians, the Tibetans, the Hindus, and certain sects of Christianity. However, it is largely unknown to most people because it is not taught in the exoteric churches or temples. The Bardo, Thordol, is the one source where we can find references to the celestial sound current. The Tibetan term Bardo, Thoskrol, translates as liberation through hearing the intermediate state. Clearly a reference to the soul's ability to tune into the celestial currents immediately following death, and thereby transcended rebirth. Transcended rebirth. So this is saying, if you can hear the celestial spheres from the heavens when you die, that means you've bypassed the reincarnation loop. That means somehow you have received your freedom tone or key to exit the reel and the wheel of reincarnation. So I would pay attention to that because that resonates with me. And I've always known that you go what you sound like. You will, when you die, you will go with what you sound like. So you make sure and produce the most beautiful symphony ever heard. It is within you, and your sound is unique. So let it play loudly and profoundly, and may it travel through the entire cosmos. Celestial music can sometimes be heard when one is very still, as in meditation, or as if when one is drifting off to sleep. We will discover later in this book many near-death experiences report hearing these celestial melodies when entering the dimensions of heaven. These sounds are connected to the string theory as proposed by the modern physics, which says that within the atom itself are subatomic particles that are constantly vibrating. These various parts are named quarks, neutrinos, leptons, and so forth. And since there are so many of them, scientists now believe that they are actually the vibrating strings that create the symphony of the celestial sounds, as above, so below. What is below is connected to the above. That perfectly makes sense to me. The symphony of the celestial sounds, all oscillating at different frequencies. That's us. This is the background noise of the universe that brings matter into being. Matter into being. Sound creates matter. I've always been shown this. Pythagoras sought to decode this universal pattern through music, mathematics, and sacred geometry, explaining that the laws that govern these manifestations of matter are a result of these frequencies. Frequency is creating our reality, guys. This is more confirmation about that. As we can see, Pythagoras was ahead of his time. Much of his knowledge was taught secretly in the mystery schools of Egypt and Persia. This now has only begun to resurface in our era. It has been taken to its natural conclusion. It has the potential to help us decode the matrix upon the universe it is built. Pythagoras also taught the golden mean, the spiral of which all creation is built. This knowledge about music, mathematics, and sacred geometry is the basis of these disciplines today. The Eleusinian geometry is also attributed to Pythagoras, for Eleusiad was one of his students. In addition, Pythagoras is created with the discovery that the concordant musical pitches can be expressed in a simple numeric ratio. For example, a string half as long will sound an octave higher, while a string in the ratio of 2.3 sound at the interval of a fifth. This was the key discovery in the history of science, for it shows how complex and logical the universe is when it is understood mathematically. Today, Pythagoras' teachings are the foundation of modern physics. Pythagoras believed that numbers have a spiritual dimension. This is a spiritual numbering system. This also applies to the Kabbalah and the mystical path of the Hebrew teachings. The higher knowledge of numbers was encoded in the Kabbalistic studies of numerology, gematria, as well as in the construction of the sacred mandalas of the East. Its importance was known to many initiates across the world, and in modern times it was known to many initiates, and also its concepts were explored by modern psychologists like Carl Jung. The connection between numbers, sounds, and the formation and foundation of the universe. The connections between the numbers are just immense. It's returning now to popular thought today, and I believe that the power of these numbers express certain fundamental principles of consciousness that are interwoven in the universe. Each of these 9 primary numbers relates to the overlighting beings whose waveform energies help maintain and sustain the cosmos. Wow. As we shall see, this critical understanding of numbers applies to many things, from the 7 chakras and the 7-dimensional planes to the creation of the 9 angelic hierarchies. And I have always seen the numbers associated to the rays, and I've always seen the rays associated to an archangel or an archon. So we will stop there, and it goes into the great chain of being after that. And this is what Pythagoras discovered, and this is phi. The spiral of creation, the golden mean, the golden ratio. This is how all is manifest in matter, and it is based upon a mathematical sequence. And this is the story of us in matter. Not the story in different physical realms, but this is the story of us here in matter, and how number and sound cooperate to create a frequency, and then that frequency of vibration manifests the unseen into the scene. So I love you guys. I hope this was informative. We will be picking up again soon. I might try to read some more later if I can. I love you all. I'm going to try to give this some time to upload and see how it goes. And we'll talk to you on the next one. And again, we're in chapter 3, and we will start again on the great chain of being. Much love. See you soon. Bye-bye.